What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today, we are celebrating my March dividends. Since March marks the end of the first quarter of 2021, I have a lot more in distributions this month because most of my ETFs and index funds cut me that check. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first dividend paying fund I have this month is VTSAX. Some people also call it VTSAX, and it is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. And I invest in it through my 401k. It pays dividends on a quarterly basis, and for March, this totaled $12.53. Next, you might be familiar with VOO, which is Vanguard's very popular S&P 500 ETF. Last year, I decided I wanted to focus on growth, so I invested in VOOG, which has a subset of companies in the S&P 500 that are considered to have the potential to outperform the market. In total, I received $9.93 for my holdings, all of which were in my taxable brokerage account. In retrospect, VOOG has a high expense ratio relative to what I aim for in my overall portfolio, so I probably could have gone with a fund like VOOG instead, which is just a general large cap growth in ETF, but I'll leave things as is for now. All right, so next we have VBK, which is the Vanguard Small Cap Growth ETF. So a stock is classified as having a small market capitalization when the value of all its shares total between $250 million and $2 billion. So those small cap stocks can be more risky than investing in larger companies. They tend to come with a higher growth potential, which is why I specifically selected VBK to be in my portfolio. And these shares paid me $10.10 in dividends this March. Okay, so next we have SPHD, which is the Invesco S&P 500 High Dividend, Low Volatility ETF, and it pays dividends on a monthly basis. It's focused on maximizing income through dividends and minimizing losses by choosing stocks that are less volatile. In March, I received $2.25 in dividends. Now we have QYLD, which is another high dividend paying ETF that comes in on a monthly basis. It yields higher income than most funds by using covered calls, which is an option strategy. I only had a small position in this ETF, and I actually decided to sell all of my shares because I just want to write my own covered calls using SPY, but I'll talk about that in a future video. In any case, QYLD paid me out $7 for the month of March. Next, we have my employee stock purchase plan. I bought employee stock while I was at an old job, and I haven't yet sold those shares. The stock pays quarterly dividends, so I received $46.84. If you're curious to learn more about employee stock purchase plans, check out the video I link above, which gives an overview of ESPPs and things to consider when investing. Next, a good portion of my portfolio is comprised of individual stocks. This month, I received $43.87 in payments from 6 different stocks. So this brings me to a total of $132.52 for US stock alone. I like to have a diversified portfolio, so I also invest in international funds. VXUS is the Vanguard Total International Stock Index fund ETF. It holds stock from a variety of countries around the world. I'd imagine at least a couple of the companies in the top 10 look familiar to you. In any case, in March, I received $74.53 in dividends from this ETF. Next, I have VEA, which is the Vanguard Developed Markets Index Fund ETF. This ETF is comprised of stock from companies that are headquartered in developed countries outside of the United States. Over 50% of the holdings in this particular fund are from European stock, but there are other regions represented as well. So I use this ETF in tandem with an emerging markets ETF in one of my brokerage accounts. In March, I received $14.65 in dividends from VEA. So this brings my international ETF dividends to $89.18 for the month of March. As I started learning more about portfolio diversification earlier this year, I decided to invest in a real estate fund, and I chose FSRNX. This month, I received 24 cents in dividends from this fund, which actually had quite the miserable yield. I bought some shares of FREL a bit after FSRNX because I wanted more exposure to real estate in my portfolio, but I wanted it as an ETF since you can sell it during the trading day. I had more money in this ETF than I did in the index fund, and I'm happy I did that because the dividends actually ended up being more significant and brought in around $41.75. Lastly, once the dividends for FREL were paid, I moved all of those holdings to VNQ to capitalize on their dividends. I was also in the process of rebalancing my portfolio, so I added more to the VNQ position and ultimately received $115.88 in dividends. This brings my total income from real estate funds to $157.87 for the month of March. As I mentioned earlier, this month was an awesome month for dividends. Looking forward a few months, I think June will be a solid month, and I think I might even be able to top $500 because I do have some funds that only pay twice a year. In any case, thanks so much for dropping by the channel. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you like the video,